You want to start talking about that thing with your father? Did you ever know what the story was? That I gave him a check. We met this secret meeting at the airport. It wasn't a secret.
No, I didn't know.
When we were renegotiating, but I said, okay, I'll go. So I gave him the money. Later, when I found out all this had happened, and I saw him during the lawsuit, and he said to me, did you ever suspect that?
No, he was the only time. The first inkling of this that we had was when we were playing like our asses off every night. And we were playing, I don't know, for $5,000 a night or $3,500. I don't remember what our price was then. But it wasn't exorbitant. So we were really a working band, and all of a sudden they came to repossess Pig's organ. And now we know we were working enough to be able to make payments on things. So that was our first inkling of something that was going wrong when they were starting to repossess our equipment and we were playing 4 or 5 nights a week. And then Phil and I asked him, we said, we want the books, we want to see the books, what's happening? And then we met him in a hamburger joint, and he wouldn't give us the books. And then I realized something was really wrong. I said, wow. And I couldn't come to grips with this. This was amazing. Not only was he stealing from the Grateful Dead, which was like hitting Santa Claus over the head with a club, he was stealing from his own son. I had no idea that this was going on. Now, Lenny just turned out to be a liar and a thief. There's nothing more in that.
Had you had with him? Was it a good father and son relationship?
He left when I was an infant.
Oh.
So I never really knew him as growing up.
When did he come back?
And then I came back. We met again when he was a world champion rudimental drummer. And I had seen his picture in a brochure, a catalog for Remo, who makes all the drum heads. So I looked him up when I was in the Air Force in 1960, when I first joined the Air Force. And we said hello, made friends, hung out for a week or two. And when I got out of the service, he had a drum store in San Carlos. So he asked me to come out here and join him in the drum store. That's how I met the Grateful Dead. You see, he was on the peninsula in San Carlos where the Grateful Dead were. And then eventually Kreutzmann became my drum student. And then he asked me to come and play with this band that he had, that he was in. And I sat in one day, and that was the Grateful Dead. And that was that. So Lenny, really, looking back, not only was he disgraced and almost ruined the Grateful Dead and myself personally in our relationship, he actually made it so that the Grateful Dead was the Grateful Dead. If you look at it in a bigger way, Lenny was responsible in a certain kind of a bizarre, off-the-wall way of getting us all together. Yeah, because I would never have been out here, and we wouldn't have had the Grateful Dead as we know it without him. Even though he had got me so... It was the first time I ever wanted to I thought about suicide, man. I never thought of taking my life before. I'm a real positive, ongoing guy, whatever. I take it as it comes, But what a disgrace, But the Grateful Dead never blamed me. The guys stuck by me just like brothers, man. Right to the very end, And that was one of the reasons that I had to leave the band for 2 years.
You couldn't deal with it, huh?
I went into this big giant funk. I was so embarrassed and so humiliated that my father would steal from the Grateful Dead under my nose and the Grateful Dead treated him so fine, man, and they were getting him off, They treated him to something, we had magic, we had mayonnaise, and he didn't understand what he saw. And he thought we were just a bunch of hippies taking LSD. And that's all he saw. And I guess he tried to take advantage of that in the worst way. And I couldn't face anybody. Not that they were laying it on me. I laid it on myself. I just took a few years off, and then I just came back one day.
Well, did you ever quantify how much money went?
It was over $75,000.
No, so $75,000 was a one shot there. I think that was just the.
It was between $75 and $200, I guess.
Minor league.
We never found out. No, if you that was then.
Sure,
that in those days that's like $2 million now. If somebody walks away with it, so it was disgraceful.
And what happened in the end? Did you ever get any of it back?
No, we just let him ride. But we're not cops, and we're also not collecting agencies, And if there is no money, where do you get it from? He went to jail for 6 months or something. And we couldn't even stop it. We didn't even try to stop it. The DA got a hold of this, I think, and they just went on their own and did it and prosecuted him, and he put him in jail, and he found Jesus, and he used the cross as a shield.
Did you see him at all?
Never saw him again until the day he died.
Did you have to testify?
Jerry went.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't go. Jerry went and did something in court, but the only time I saw him was in his coffin, and I buried him. I drummed on his coffin, gave him a drummer's burial, the way he should be. But he was a dog, an absolute rotten human being, and I was ashamed for him to be my father. The only thing that he did well was he was a superb drummer, and that's it. And for no other reason, will I ever remember him. He's disgrace.
You guys had a series of managers of all kinds of...
Well, we were set up for it because of the nature, the physical setup that we were... Look, explain something, the basic thing. The Grateful Dead, when they played, Joe, we were thinking of it as church. To us, God was sound. That was our God. We would pray. We were praying. We weren't playing music. We were just a rock and roll band. That's just what it looked like. You see, it was different for us, and like trying to make us make songs and all that stuff was really not in the order of things, in our things. And that's the reason that Warner Brothers and the Grateful Dead had so much confusion there, is that we were doing something different. And it wasn't what anybody else was doing, nor what you perceived or anybody perceived it to be. We were a certain kind of an animal. And it was a great version of itself. It wasn't what it wasn't. It was what it was. And it was doing something that was linked maybe to archaic humanity. It was really deep, and it still is, and that's why the people are still around. It's not a rock and roll band. It never was.
How much back then, how much of a role did the fact that there was so much hallucinogenics being used, how much did that play in the music?
Big part. It was the genesis of the whole thing. It was able to free you of your earthly the bonds that held you to the earth, and you were able to fly, and you were able to, doors would open that to realms that were not normally accessible in the normal waking state. The processes of transformation that we would go through when we would take hallucinogenics in the group would allow us to have some kind of a union in a very high, very extraordinary place. You could call it mayonnaise, you could call it soul, you can call it whatever you want, but we were all finding this place together, and we were groping just like you were groping, to find out the meaning of things, how to deal with the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead was wondering how to deal with the Grateful Dead. We were in a total experimental position then. Remember, when we went into the studio, we had an adversarial relationship right at the beginning with the engineers who didn't want anything in the red. They were all old guys, the CBS guys, and we wanted to run things in the red and do it the way we wanted to do it because our music was different than what had gone before, and we weren't interested in copying anything. We were more interested in going ahead and finding out who we were, what we were doing. You pray. Praying is not easy. Praying is work, hard work, and that's what we would do all the time. So we had to get rid of all the engineers, had to learn about the studio, and find out what the Grateful Dead was.
Were you very close as personalities too? Because there were some very diverse personalities.
We all lived together. We farted together. We lived together. We loved together. We did a lot of things together. We were about as close as you can get. We're closer than family. I don't know. Some families aren't close, but talk about a close family. This is closer than that. Okay, this is closer than blood. That's how it felt. It's still like that.
You got invited in after the formation.
Right, in 67.
The first record was made.
Second record I worked. I was on the second. Right after the first record I joined the band.
Were you in Monterey?
No, right after Monterey.
Right after
a month
Monterey,
after, I
as I
think.
recall. And what was the thinking in adding more percussion in this band?
Well, there really wasn't any thinking, and no one had ever planned on it. It's just that once we got on the stage at the Straight Theater and I played, we played for hours. And then all of a sudden they all turned around, and we finished playing. I had no idea. And they all came over and hugged me and kissed me, and they said, "This is the Grateful Dead." It was the last little piece that was needed to make this new music. And that was the way it began. No one had any kind of, it was a blues band when I knew the Grateful Dead. That's when it was a blues band. It played the blues. Pigpen was a Hart player. It just turned from being a jug band into a blues band. And then we went into outer space. And then we just cut loose.
What was there? One trigger that sent you there, or was?
Well, Jerry says it was when I was studying. I was studying with Alaraka, who was the Indian Ravi Shankar's drummer, and I was learning all these other rhythms and learning how to take the one and throw it away and play off the pulse and learning the pulse and this and that. And Jerry says that was the thing that moved us into the Grateful Dead, the next version of the Grateful Dead, the experimental music band. Which turned into what we are now. a very real evolutionary process. It's not very hard to see. You played an important role in it because you set up yourself up in an adversarial position because you really didn't recognize the Grateful Dead, and there was no reason for you to, because it was so strange and it's so bizarre, and no one disliked you or Mo or Clyde or any of that. It was just you were the straight guys, you were the record company. You'd write those notes, and we'd sit and we'd grade them, and we'd put them up on the wall.
I gotta see some of those notes.
Oh, somebody should find that, with paragraph indenting.
Yeah.
Right, it said, Joe, wrong spelling, or no, this is a preposition, not a verb. And but we took it with a sense of humor. And we never got violent or vicious.
No, we never felt that.
No, it was never like
Nobody
that. We just knew you just didn't understand, and we didn't expect you to understand.
And I grew up on this band.
You wanted songs. The Grateful Dead was into praying.
Yeah.
You wanted 5-minute singles.
Yeah.
And we said, hey, look, you have a son, or you have a kid, and he's not exactly what you think he should be. You have to love him if you really want that child. If he's retarded or if he's extra smart or whatever it is, you have to accept him for what he is. I've accepted the Grateful Dead like that.
Well, many of the problems were that you always surrounded yourself with people who were going to be the liaison with us and bridge this.
Who were just like we were.
Who were just like you were. So,
well, we didn't know any straight people.
Yeah.
Bill Graham was the straightest person we knew.
Yeah, see, when he got into it, I could understand it a little more.
We fired him after 20 minutes.
I know.
Okay, Bill, you want to be the manager? Okay, cool. Yeah. It lasted to 20 minutes. Actually, 20 minutes.
But Rock and Danny and the first wave of managers,
they all had the heart and soul of the Grateful Dead. It was the first thing in their minds, and they operated from that, and they weren't businessmen. Danny was taking food from the back of Mayfair supermarkets to feed us, we had no money, no food. We just would play, and every day we'd wake up, smoke doobies, take psychedelics, and play. And just, that it was us and them. And, and then there was the record company. Who was trying to make a commercial product out of the Grateful Dead. We were more into, which takes us into our personal rapport. When you came up to the ranch and you heard the pump, it was perceptive of you to give me a contract just by hearing the pump, and it turned into playing in the band or Greatest Story, some of our better tunes, but we were moving into other directions. So in one respect, you gave us the opportunity to expand ourselves, and me especially. I built the barn. I learned all about the studio from that experience. The contract allowed me to build it, to become at ease with it, learn about electronics, and really develop what was really inside of me, my essence, musical essence, without having to be bothered by what was going on the radio. But then when I brought you the product, the fruit, you didn't see it.
No.
I hardly saw it. I knew that it was different and it was unique, and I knew that I was giving everything I got to, and I knew it was the thing I had to follow as a human. And I knew that I wasn't following anybody's drummer except my own. And you didn't see it, but what it did was it made me realize that I had something that was unique. It was different, and I remember leaving that day after everybody walked out on the playing of my second record, and they all left, and I was just sitting there alone in the room. The tape was still playing, and I remember the ride back to the airport. There was one hand saying, "Oh my God, that's it!" They couldn't even listen to the whole tape. I was getting into noise. I was getting into sound. My idea of music was expanding, and everybody wanted a pop record. And for that, you didn't take time to listen, and I didn't take time to explain it. And I just kept going. I just kept, developing onward. So it was okay.
Well, we were a company that we made a record with Van Dyke Parks that we didn't understand very much either, because you're out there thinking, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah, I know.
Because we didn't create it.
That's right.
There's a big difference. I'm sitting here, I picture what it's going to be, and you don't necessarily go to the next step and say, well, what are we going to do with it?
He did me the biggest favor in my life at that moment. I realized later that it cut me free. It really did. It cut me loose. Instead of writing songs and writing pop music. I followed what was really in my heart, and I've always done that ever since that moment. That really made me understand that I did have something that was unique, and it was something that no one even saw except me. And that led me into what I'm doing now. I do sound design for Twilight Zone. I do the thing for Apocalypse Now. I do movies. I have no problem getting work. As a matter of fact, I don't answer the phone now, Joe.
Tell me about the band itself. What if you had to answer and say why 20 years later with a group of people who have no knowledge of what you were then, other than some misty you were John Kennedy. Why are they still coming? Why can you play Madison Square Garden 3 nights and all these places around the country?
This is my opinion, and I'm not speaking as the Grateful Dead. Okay, the Grateful Dead do a thing that is unique, and it's not necessarily a music thing. Do you know what a shamanic performance is? A shaman, for instance, is a person, a man or a woman, who uses music to induce an altered state, another consciousness. People come to be healed, and he uses the drum as his instrument to take you on a journey, himself and the patient, and he cures.
Like a witch doctor.
Like a witch doctor. It's just called a shaman.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shamanic performance is a Siberian phenomenon, but it's used all over the world. The Grateful Dead, I believe, have some link into archaic humanity. It has some way, some feeling that it gives that allows the people who come to see it to reflect into their own self. It's a healing, it's a ceremony, it's a ritual. And there's some kind of rapture that goes down when you see the Grateful Dead. It's more than music. It's music that touches you in a very unique place, that allows you to enjoy, to be equal. You're not assaulted. It's a friendly place. It's a place you come to get changed, and you are changed. You're different when you leave a Grateful Dead concert. You're high. You think of something else besides the bills. Bill Graham calls it time out. It's not that we are actively involved in a shamanic performance, but it takes on the characteristics of it. I've been doing some research into this, of why. Just this question, why now, the Grateful Dead? Why, if in 20 years, why do people still come in droves to it? Well, it certainly isn't just the songs. It's the vibrations. It's the Sufis say Nada Brahma, which God is sound. I have always believed that. The Grateful Dead, I believe, has always believed in that. And the church that we pray to is you won't find it. You'll find it when the Grateful Dead strike up that note. When the Grateful Dead play, and the Grateful Dead, kiss the sky. And that's why they keep coming back. Because it's an experience they can have nowhere else. It's totally unique to us because of the interplay that we have as a group.
And how is it from the stage out when you see these crowds? How about you guys performing every night? Do you get tired of it? Do you get yourself off?
I get off.
Yeah.
I get off tremendously at a Grateful Dead concert. So, of course, sometimes it's hard to get up because of the problems of the day. The kids or this and that. You're thinking, but we're trained enough now. We're athletes to be able to try to let go on the stage and try to feel. Grateful Dead, don't think, feel. We never were great thinkers. We could feel. And that's what the Grateful Dead is all about. It's a feeling. So we're running after this feeling just like they're running after this feeling. We're frantically running after this feeling. It's what musicians do their whole life, is run after this thing. You can't see it. You can't touch it. It's there. You can feel it. Okay? And it's that elusive feeling that we'll always be going after. We did and we will until we die.
What do you answer to, there are critics who say that musically the band hasn't moved ahead very much in 20 years. Is that true?
If I listen to the critics,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous, man. That's totally ridiculous. We are so much better than we were, 20 years ago. We could hardly play 20 years ago. We just had great spirit. And we put everything we had into the music. Now we can play our instruments. Hey, we're going to get pot shots. 20 years, everybody does, so what? We're Count Basie now. We're Duke Ellington. They lasted 20, 30, 40 years. We'll do the same thing. We're like that. We're a big band that has lasted 2 or 3 generations. It's on the 3rd generation now.
Do you musically now get chances to spend a lot of time together to plan what you're going to do? Make a record, do things
No.
like that?
The evolution of the Grateful Dead now is mostly First of all, you can't really rehearse the Grateful Dead. You can't rehearse that feeling. You can rehearse songs, but you can't rehearse the feeling. The feeling is there. The idea is to wake that feeling up.
Do all the guys feel this way?
Of course. Why do you think Why do you think they're in the Grateful Dead? They couldn't do this if it was for money or for glory. I mean, this is too hard of work. You couldn't get paid for this kind of stuff. This is stuff that you really have to believe in or not believe in, and it's not dogma. I mean, we've seen what it does to the people. Now, if I was giving you this rap, and no one was showing up at the concert, you'd say, "Hey, Mickey, I think you better go see a doctor, man, because you're really whacked out." But I'm just trying to explain the phenomenon to you.
It's mystical to me that there are people.
It's not so mystical.
Who just have not mystical. That's wrong. But who just have no knowledge of what you were when you started, and
they don't have to.
And there they are.
They can pick it up. It's like a great book.
Yeah.
You can pick it up in the middle or in the end, and you can still start reading it. Good books are like that. You can get as much out of it as if you started to read the very first page. The Grateful Dead had mayonnaise when I met it. When I first heard the Grateful Dead had magic. Okay, and I knew it as soon as I heard it. And as long as the Grateful Dead have that spirit, and I've seen the Grateful Dead lose that magic.
When was that?
Well, when I wasn't playing with the Grateful Dead, I heard the Grateful Dead one time, and I went out and I just snuck in the back door. I just wanted to hear what the Grateful Dead sounded like. I didn't even want to see anybody in the band, and it had lost that magic. At this one time that I had heard it, it was not there. And when the Grateful Dead was going to hang it up in '74, the Winterland concerts, on the fifth night, I just put my drums in the back of my car and I said, I'm going to play my band down. I mean, if it's going down, I'm going to be there. I went down to Winterland, set the drums up, and we played. Keith Godshaw had never played with me for 2-3 years. And then he came up to me afterwards. He said, I've been playing the Grateful Dead for 3 years, and I never heard the Grateful Dead until tonight. I said, well, man, this is just the Grateful Dead. Relax, man. He said, we can't stop now. And right on, man, let's go. So we kept going. So the Grateful Dead never hung it up. And from time to time, the Grateful Dead goes into a doldrum. Then it doesn't come up to its potential. And it goes through a life cycle just like anything else. It gets dull. And then it gets exciting again. And it goes through the cycles of death, life, rebirth. You're born, you die. And in death, there's birth. And the Grateful Dead is dying all the time, musically. And that's why I know that it's vital. And it comes up to the standards of the Grateful Dead.
Getting back in history, after the initial records of you praying to sound and long jams and not doing songs, what triggered Working Man's?
Well, these were just some easy songs. They were just basically acoustic songs, and they weren't really elaborate. And I think we were in a bind.
Yes.
As far as money.
I'm trying to figure, was it more the bind that forced you to do it? Or
no, I think it was a natural progression. We wanted just to do this.
Because I don't think you guys would have done anything.
No, of course not.
You were not going to be proud of it.
Oh, you must better believe it. Especially if you said to do it, we wouldn't do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That was the first thing.
Yeah, it had to come from you guys.
It had to come. If you said it, then for sure we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But look, it could have been anybody, Joe. Nothing. You understand it? It was nothing personal.
I understand that.
You just set yourself up. It's like being the manager of the Grateful Dead. It's Palookaville.
Somebody had to be there, and I was the guy that was there. We were
you were great at it.
It was me.
You were like
than somebody else. I mean, we never bothered you.
No,
you made your records.
You were great at it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you wanted to have an adversary, you would have been my pick.
Yeah.
No, it was cool.
Were you amazed at the commercial acceptance of these records?
No.
Really?
No, everything seemed to be very normal and natural in the Grateful Dead world.
No kidding.
Yeah, nothing seemed strange. It was just, look, we always thought of this as a long-term thing. I mean, a long-term thing. Even then, I thought it would never end.
No kidding. Yeah,
I still think it never will end.
Well, you may be right. I mean, you're more right than wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I might be wrong, but I still have the feeling.
Did the rest of the guys all feel that this was a long-term? Because
we wouldn't have done this. We let everything go, Joe. I mean, everything. We cut every bit of reality loose. And we just formed our own world, our Grateful Dead world. And that was enough to sustain us. And it was more than enough. It nourished us. Not only did it sustain us, we grew. Because what we were being told from the outside world just didn't fit what we were. We knew we weren't a top 40 band. And we never really tried to be it. We just tried to be a great version of what we were. The Grateful Dead. And just so happens, the people kept coming. And we never had to depend, and actually he did us a favor, because we never depended on records. See, because if we would have depended on records, once you don't have a hit record, you're gone. We were a live performing band. We always knew that was the animal. We could never get it in the studio. We tried everything. Producer, remember Hassinger?
Sure, of course.
Hassinger went away for 5 years. We drove him nuts.
I know, you broke him.
Yeah, man, we didn't do that on purpose.
Meeting at the house.
Yeah.
You said, we don't want him, we want him out. And he was sitting there.
Yeah.
Been all around the country.
And I remember when we got up on the console and told after an anthem, after we spent $120,000, we didn't have a basic, and we said, well, we have to re-record this in heavy air or light air.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
That's one of my great stories.
Yeah, well,
you remember foggy day.
Yeah, you remember that?
Oh God, yes.
Okay, so that was it. And then Hassinger started doing that with his little remember the cigarillos and his little sweaters he used to wear. And poor Hassinger. Hassinger wasn't a bad guy.
He was a bad guy at all.
He just didn't see the Grateful Dead.
No.
That's all. And that's something you can't crucify a person for. You say, gee, well, what would have happened if all you guys really saw the Grateful Dead and got behind it? We might not even be here.
That's right.
We might have turned into a top 40 group, got real successful, and died a miserable death.
What would have been
on the charts?
Record success have done to you?
Kill the Grateful Dead.
It might have killed you.
Yeah. So it's cool, man. Everything is right.
Yeah.
It is right.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were a success, we wouldn't even be sitting here, man.
I swear to you, that's one of the questions.
I always hope we would never, deep in my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some of the guys might not feel like this, but I always thought that if we ever got a hit, it would have been the end of the Grateful Dead, because we wouldn't be lean and and hungry like we are now.
All kinds of other demands.
The Grateful Dead is like a shark, man. It's like an animal. The only thing it's interested in doing is making music. Like a shark only eats all day. The Grateful Dead really only wants to do one thing. Do that, be the Grateful Dead. And that is not necessarily making top 40 singles. That would have been our destruction. The end. And so, in many ways, this was great fortune, as I looked at it. Now, I haven't talked to everybody.
No. And I intend to talk to Jerry and to Phil.
This is the way I'm trying to get Phil down here.
Yeah. The turmoil in the business side of your career.
This is like therapy to me. I mean, really, I'd like to see the way he sees it too.
Yeah, with these managers, did the band ever stop and say, "Well, Jesus, is this being handled right?" or anything like that, or was playing all you cared about?
No, we were musicians. We were artistes.
And so
nobody else would do it. So anybody who wanted to do it could do it.
And you never got rid of anybody.
No, because they were all part of us. We all suffered together. I mean, we all struggled together at the beginning. It was like, what are you going to say to Rock Scully? He was my first friend I had in San Francisco. What do you say to Danny Rifkin? I mean, he helped feed me, and the band. What are you going to say to the Bear? To Owsley, and all those people. I mean, they were there when it all happened. Well, as it's gone through the years, it's all been all the people who are really the Grateful Dead now are with the Grateful Dead. The motives have been siphoned out, and all the periphery is gone because of economics, because of time. It's just taken its toll. And people have warped out on drugs. We've lost a lot of people because of drug abuse. And the Grateful Dead always went on because we played the music, and that's why we were able to get through it. Somehow, because the other people weren't playing the music. They were making the deals, or they were trying. What they really had in their heart was the good of the Grateful Dead. They tried to make sure that the Grateful Dead would be ongoing, because we were running into walls. Every other day we would make a terrible decision, business-wise, and we would just be beating our heads into the wall. We just wanted to have enough space to play our music. We didn't care what. As long as we had some pot and some space to play our music, you can do whatever you want. We didn't care about the royalties. We would hope that they would come in someday, but believe me, we never talked about it.
No kidding.
Never. No, it had no... we had to make a record because we signed a contract and you gave us $100,000. Okay, we knew that. We always were in debt to you. Not until recently, maybe in the last few years that we have, or maybe 6, 8, 10, whatever, a few years. That could be 15 years. Like the new guy in this band he's been in the band 7 years. He's still a new guy.
Yeah. He's praying somebody else comes along.
I said I can't remember his name.
What was the music scene in San Francisco back then?
Yes.
In the 60s. Did the other bands understand you guys?
They loved the Grateful Dead because of its spirit, its wildness.
Yeah.
We didn't give a shit.
How about musically?
They respected. They wouldn't follow us. The Grateful Dead, when we played, it was like holy music. It really was. We were pulling from a place that no one had access to. Because remember, we were the ones that were loosest. We would all take psychedelics together. I mean, and there's something to that, and we would learn to play on it. You know, we never took psychedelics and went out in the street and took our clothes off and went ha ha ya ha. We never went to the forest and just took it to get high. Whenever we got high, we played, and we used it as we learned to play high. We would stop playing in the middle of songs in the old days and then reform the music, and then it would go from one thing. That's how the music got its form, you know, because things would break up and then we would reform it, and then things wouldn't fit together the way they normally did, and we said, okay, it's not the way this is the Grateful Dead, it's not the way we learned or we hear on the radio. It's okay. And once we was to surrender that feeling, then the Grateful Dead formed.
And these long shows,
It takes a long time to find out who you are.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to warm up. It takes a long time for your spirits to come together to make this other music.
What about the physical demands?
Well, look at me.
Yeah, you look terrific.
I mean, I'm an athlete. I work out to be in the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead isn't important enough for me to not get lazy. Phil, he works out. I mean, he's got a little bit of a stomach, but it takes a lot of intensity up here to play Grateful Dead music, as well as intensity here. Even Garcia, in his condition, was still always able to get up on the stage and play Grateful Dead style music. And I mean, when I play with other bands, I don't necessarily play like the Grateful Dead. When I play little side bands or something, you can't play like that with everybody. Everybody can't play together like that. Like, I don't fit in so well in other bands. Now, Jerry, I can't imagine Jerry fitting in with another band with Phil Lesh. When the Grateful Dead stops, he'll lay his bass up.
Were any 1, 2, 3 of you guys who led the charge to get further out in music? Was there any, from the musical standpoint, was it always a community effort, or did somebody lead the way? Was, like...
From different times, different people led.
Is that right?
And the Grateful Dead was gracious enough to give everybody a time to lead. Yeah. And if it was one person's destiny, we would turn out to be not like this. If it was Phil Lesh or Jerry, it wouldn't nearly be as far out as this. Look at Bobby. Look at Bobby, the little Bobby, look, the kid. Yeah. He gets up there, runs up on speaker columns, He's manifests himself. He's little Bobby Weir, that guy used to stand in the back of the bus and twiddle on his guitar. And now he's up there strong, man, and playing right in the front of the band, leading the band on, Well,
you were less conservative than the others musically then.
Who was?
You, when you say that if Phil or Jerry were playing, it wouldn't nearly be as far out?
No, if it was just their idea of how the Grateful Dead should be.
I see, yeah.
No, when you bring a song to the Grateful Dead, whether I bring it or Jerry brings it, he brings it, he got the chord changes, here's the way I like it to go, and then we make it the Grateful Dead. Yeah. We change the song and we make it into the Grateful Dead song. Not a Jerry Hunter song, it's a Grateful Dead song. You see, it gets Grateful Deadized. Yeah. Whatever comes in, you throw it into the pot, be prepared. Because it will change. It will be ours. Not yours, but ours. And that's always been like that. As long as I can remember for everything we've ever done, we've always taken that liberty. And the Grateful Dead has given the Grateful Dead that liberty to take the songs and mold it into something different.
Back to history. Do you remember the specifics in New Orleans of the famous incident?
What about?
How it happened, how you recall it, what were the circumstances?
Well, me and Billy were across the street on Bourbon Street. The airplane had been there, and it told us that there was a warning. Don't go to New Orleans. They're going to pop you. And
Jim Garrison.
Yeah, Jim Garrison was the DA. Okay, and he wanted to do something. Okay, and he wanted to make a name. Wasn't he doing the Kennedy thing?
I told McNally. You feel set up all the way?
Oh, we were set up.
Yeah.
Totally set up. They knew we were coming. Bill and I were across the street at a strip joint. Here's Kreutzmann, it's Nia Kreutzmann. So we had a couple of beers, and we walked across the hotel, and we were singing songs and holding on to each other, and all of a sudden Kreutzmann said, "There, cops are everywhere. There's plainclothesmen all around." I said, "Oh, come on, Billy. There's no cops here." And we just kept going. We walked back into the hotel, walked up there, and there's Bobby Weir sitting with a tray with a drawer full of pot, cleaning it, in the room. And there was all these people from all around. Bobby doesn't even smoke. Bobby did nothing, Bobby was the innocent one. So we get in there, and Bobby sits down, and all of a sudden, we close the door, and knock, knock, knock. FBI, open up. I said, no. And so they broke the door down. They threw me in the door, knocked me into the closet. And so they all run in with their weapons drawn, and I run out the door, and I run down the hallway, and of course there's a couple of them there, and they just bring me back in the room, and they handcuffed us all, and took us to prison, the parish prison. We spent all night there, and it was set up. It was set up by some girl who knows? We never really found out how it really went down. And then me and Ramrod and Jackson and Owsley were charged with a misdemeanor. And finally we got it down to half a misdemeanor, and then the case was dropped. And that's all really went down.
And what about the rest of the guys?
Oh, they got let off. I mean, for some reason, I can't, it was, for one reason or another. It was just... Well, we did Truckin', man. We got a great song out of that.
Of course, a terrific song.
It was one. That's why I say prison is great. Like Crosby, he's going to come out of prison now and write the best songs of his life and sing his ass off. Prison is great to write it. And so that was New Orleans. Actually, it brought us more together than ever. We were. Of course, this was the second time we were busted. It was first one was the first Rolling Stone issue. Grateful Dead busted on Hate Street.
That's right.
And after this, our price went up like thousands of dollars in New Orleans. We became world famous after the bust. They did nothing but help us.
At what point, Mickey, did drugs cease to be an important factor in the music, or really in the band? Did something happen, or?
Well, it was hard to go on the road. Once we started going on the road and taking psychedelics and coming back to a hotel room, it was no way. And it got old after a while. The same thing would happen. And once you know about psychedelics, and once you know about how it works and what it does, there's really no reason to keep taking it every night. And it was becoming a crutch. And it was becoming uncomfortable because coming down from it was really hard in a room. And I was never really into coke or heroin or any hard drugs. None of us were ever really into that kind of, that was not productive. That was not musical. So we never really used it. We only used drugs that we thought that enhanced the music. So there was a time when it became uncomfortable for me, and getting hit on when the fans started recognize who you were, because you didn't want to talk. You just want to do it, and be within your own self, go into into the inner self. And it was just discarded slowly over the years. And of course, remember, LSD became illegal.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
remember, there was that too. I mean, when we first were doing it, it wasn't illegal. I mean, you'd get it at the door. When you paid your 75 cents, you'd get a tab. And everybody who walked in, had the option of getting high or not. It didn't cost hardly anything. It was just pretty free.
What kind of recollections do you have of some of the places you played, like Monterey Pop Festival?
I wasn't at Monterey.
Oh, that's right. No, Woodstock.
Woodstock was one of the most horrible musical days of my life, because started to rain. When half of the PA went off, everybody was getting shocks on the stage. We had to wait around. I think we played in the middle of the night or in the morning or something, and it was such a big scene. There was so much attention brought on it that the Grateful Dead never really functioned under that kind of stress. We never could relax under that kind of stress. It was like our own party, free in the park. Yeah. It was like, this was a great, like a reward for us. Here are all these people. Now we had 400,000 free in the park, and this is sort of what we started years ago. But it didn't work out like that. And then there was bad acid around there, and everybody got into it. By the time we got on, everybody had done everything they could possibly do, and it wasn't as fun. It wasn't as fun like the movie had it, or like people thought about it.
Did you make the movie?
No, we didn't want our stuff put in the movie. We said no, forget it. We wouldn't want to be part of that.
And you weren't on the record either.
No, we didn't want to be part of that either. We played terrible. It was awful. And my recollections were all these people, scuffling in, and enjoying something that we already had enjoyed. It was sort of the end of, we said, this is out of hand, totally out of hand. You couldn't enjoy music under those circumstances. It was too much of a scene.
What are your recollections, even though you never really got on to play at Altamont, did you? But you were there?
At where? Altamont?
Yeah.
That was hell on earth. Yeah. That was living hell. You better believe I can describe it.
Yeah.
Hell's Angels got there real early.
Were they your idea?
No, there is still speculation on how this really came about. We were planning just the Hell's Angels to give him $500 in beer and put him on, let him have the side of a mountain or something over there and enjoy. Somehow they wound up as security guards on the stage, surrounding the stage. The older guys didn't get there early in the morning, so the younger guys got there, and they started taking reds and all kinds of stuff, and it really got out of hand. So by the time the older guys got there, they really couldn't control it. It was out of hand. The stage was moved at the very last day, you know. I mean, we were moving the stage because we couldn't do it at Sears Point, you know, and we couldn't do it here, and they were moving us. And the Stones broke the news before. We wanted just to announce it on the day, so we had like 30, 40, 50,000 people. Actually, it was a private party. We trying to. It was like for the Stones to, you know, to sort of pay back San Francisco and everything for all the money they took out of, you know, out. And it was going to be like a little party. We actually planned it at my house at the barn. It was all the planning went down. And all of a sudden the Stones guys came in and they took it to San Francisco and they announced it on the radio and everything got way out of proportion. And so things changed drastically, you know, with the Stones machine. Sam Cutler and the machine came in. And then, the day of the concert, when I got there, Marty Ballin had just gotten popped. He got hit in the mouth because of something he said to a Hell's Angel, and he just knocked him out, and he got up and he said, "Fuck you," and then he got hit again. And things started getting out of hand. And I remember being on the stage with Lesh on the back when the Stones were playing, and I saw this guy coming across the crowd with this gun. And he was just running on the top of, well, you saw the movie. And I thought it was pretty brave what this Hell's Angel did. I mean, I remember the Angels partying. A lot of them just moved away. And this one guy just ran off the stage. An Angel went into the crowd and just did this guy in. And this guy was coming right at me and Phil. And Jagger was in front of us, maybe like 6 or 8 feet on the stage. And this Angel just took him down. You know, he just stabbed him in the back, just took him down. This guy had a big gun. You can see him running across, you know. And this, I mean, it was self-defense, actually. That's the way I looked at it. And Jagger went on there, and he was in all of his glory. You know, he was sympathy for the devil. You know, there it was, and I thought it was what a day in hell would look like, a normal day in hell. I mean, it was horrible. People getting beat up, Angels going crazy. Even some of the friends that I knew were just completely out of character. You know, just going nuts. There was nothing to control anybody, and it was just way too far gone. And the Stones delayed their appearance like by an hour or two until it got dark. Jagger wanted to go on. And that's where it really heated up. So we invited them all to play. We never even got a chance to play. So me and Jerry were in a bus in the back there saying, well, what should we do, man? Should we play? We can't play now. Should we cool the scene out? No, we can't do it. There's nothing to say now. I mean, this has just gone way out of control.
You knew that somebody was killed.
Oh, yeah. We knew. We said, wow, this is way out. We just got to cool it and tell him to go home. You know, and the Stones, I mean, if Jagger didn't stay, didn't hold it up for him to become Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, you know, and just played right after whoever the last one was, to start Airplane or whomever, it might not have gotten out of hand. And I think that that time when he waited 2 hours there, just the crowd was steaming, it was restless, people were getting beat up in the crowds. I don't know. That was really an unfortunate decision on his part.
What was the relationship and how did it start with between the Hells Angels and the Grateful Dead, if there was ever a relationship?
Well, the only relation I really know is the Hells Angels used to hang around us in the old days, and when we would play free in the park, they would sort of guard the electricity. You know, they would stay on the AC lines and we wouldn't get pulled. You know, because we didn't play with no permits, and we always were we lived with the fear of getting unplugged, always, because we would play so long without permits or whatever. So the Angels was sort of like a security force so the law would not pull the plug. And that's the way I always thought of the Hells Angels, and we had some of the Hells Angels were personal friends of mine, not because they were Hells Angels, just because they were fine people. You know, they're good and bad and every.
Has that relationship continued, or did it end?
I still have friends that are Hells Angels.
But do they still hang around?
No, now it's different because they have another situation on their hands. They have been severely injured, you know, because of their involvement with the law, and they have been broken. You know, their ranks have been infiltrated. And we don't travel the same road. There are certain parallels between the Grateful Dead and the Hells Angel, because we want our own life and we determine our own fate. But that's about all. I mean, we're not into what they're into, and they're not into what we're into. They're a motorcycle club. We're a rock and roll band. We both lived in the same proximity. We were both on the street. We were both in San Francisco. It was logical that we would have certain things in common. And they loved music. They were turning on to psychedelics. There was the Kesey, and those guys in La Honda. I think that's where it started, with Kesey and the Angels in La Honda. And they got to be friends. They got to hang around. They were part of the San Francisco scene. That's it. We weren't doing business,
No. As the band matured as individuals, and people got married or had families, was it hard to keep the dedication to the Grateful Dead together, to hold that steady?
No, it was so strong that the Grateful Dead's dedication to the Grateful Dead is so strong that, and the families realize that. They know that. They know the power of the Grateful Dead on the Grateful Dead. So they never fight it. They join it.
Is there
everybody loves the Grateful Dead in the Grateful Dead.
Are there some grown-up kids now? Or?
Oh, yeah, a lot of grown-up kids. And they're playing drums and guitars. And they've grown up on the risers on the stage, under the, it's a clean way of, it's a clean life. It's a good life to grow up with, growing up around music.
Do they understand the mystique of the band, or are they like kids whose fathers play for the San Francisco 49ers and don't think much about it? Yeah.
Both. I think that they understand the Grateful Dead is special because they like it. Yeah. No one forces them to be on the stage. A lot of them stay back and play in the kids' room. We have kids' rooms now when we play. We have a place just for the children and with supervision. So when we're playing out there and so forth, we know they're not running around wild. They're back there with wavy gravy, being clowns and playing games, and they know that it's special. They hear other people talk about the Grateful Dead, and it's not like some kind of concentration camp, where you have to love the Grateful Dead. If you don't, that's cool too. Most of them are respect the Grateful Dead, and they see our respect for the Grateful Dead, and it is reflected on them, I believe. And they've also, it does that to them too. I mean, they're not immune to this feeling, not at all, as I perceive it.
How active a band are you now? How many dates a year?
We do about 80, I think.
Yeah.
I think around 80 dates.
And in between, what happens? Everybody's on their own project and have been for a number of years too, haven't they?
That's right.
Has anybody been extraordinarily successful with an individual project?
Well, I don't know what you mean by successful.
We sold a lot of records, or been
in a manner of speaking, I think that everybody has been successful in a manner of speaking. No one has had the time to devote to be successful like the Grateful Dead. This is like what you do in your off time to feed the Grateful Dead. As I look at it, it makes me more hungry to go back to the Grateful Dead. It also prepares me in growth. It gives me growth, so I can bring this back to the Grateful Dead. My percussion records have been very successful for percussion records. Audiophile Records, it's the largest selling percussion record. Movie scores, I've done Apocalypse Now. I do the Twilight Zone. Bobby does Kingfish. Kreuzman has his band. Phil is writing symphonic scores. People are following the things that they want to do, and the Grateful Dead allows that to happen. It's not so ingrown, so you can't do anything, and the Grateful Dead encourages us to do things outside the Grateful Dead. Jerry does his Garcia band. It's not like the Grateful Dead. Nothing is like the Grateful Dead, Joe.
How much more organized in the day-to-day life in the business are you now? Is it now an ongoing business that operates?
Believe it or not, the Grateful Dead, we meet as the board of directors every week. We have a board of directors meeting. Don't let this get out, Joe. We have a board of directors meeting. We have general meetings every 2 weeks where everybody, secretaries, everybody, we meet once every 2 weeks, and then the board meets once a week, and all the information is brought in front of the board, and then we make our decision. Okay, we have attorneys, we have CHP, what is CHPs? CHPs, right?
CHPs.
We have some chips that do our accounting for us. And it's a corporation, a legal California corporation, believe it or not.
Wow.
And we mind the rules, and we operate within the system. We don't let the system push us around. We don't let it determine what we do. We still would like to determine our own destiny. And it seemed like that it was always the way, and now it's just that way.
So we all...
I mean, if you could not survive the way we were in 1967 now.
Of course not.
No one could.
Have to round
You
off the
couldn't.
edges. No.
You changed.
You gotta do it.
If you don't change, you die.
Yeah.
I mean, you cease to exist.
Now, you had said up front here about the experience of attending a concert and, you know, how the crowd just walks out of there. Is there anything that you capsulize that makes this live appeal, that of live shows more so than other people? It's not that you jump around stage a lot.
It's where the music comes from, Joe. It's where it comes from. It's not how loud it is.
Yeah.
It's not how good it is. Forget about good.
Yeah.
Forget about trendy. Forget about in time. Forget about trends.
Does
Forget
anybody
about all
talk
that.
much?
It's the essence of where the music comes from. It's what drives the person to make the music. It's why. That's why we've outlasted all of those bands, especially the San Francisco bands, you know, that thought they'd go on forever. We came from a different place. Our foundation we were founded on something much different than all the other bands, obviously, because we were able to withstand all the pressures that they did and more to get here. We love each other so fucking much that money won't break us up ever. We'll laugh in the face of that. Time won't break us up. The only thing that could break us up is the Reaper.
Yeah.
You know, and which breaks anything up, and that's the end. When you die, when you leave this planet, it will break the Grateful Dead as you know it as a musical organization. But it will live on. The Grateful Dead will live on in the memory, and dare I say, on tape, records, and tapes.
Is there a point in all these years that you look back on most fondly, a year or 2 years or a time when you say, boy, that was the best you lived? What was that?
The best time, I mean, for me was when we first broke out of San Francisco. I guess it was like right after Anthem of the Sun. And we had all this new things in 11 and 17 and 5 and 10 and all these different time signatures, and we were experimenting with that new music. And I remember when we went to the Midwest, and I remember the faces and how they would look with their eyes open and their mouths open, and they would look back and forth across the whole band because this music was so new and loud and so outrageous, you know, and I saw the looks on their faces. And that was one of those, was we were all mixed up and confused in the music. We weren't thinking, we were feeling. And that was the best time for me, was when we were experimenting with all this new stuff, and every day we would fall on something we didn't know, and we would learn something every day. It's not like that anymore. But that was the most exciting time. It wasn't playing in front of a lot of people. It was when we were falling on the things that we know now for the first time, and we've taken a lot of that stuff with us. And a lot of it we've filtered out and is not part of our repertoire because it was just a miss. We hit and miss. So it was the excitement of hitting them. Yeah, we were trying really hard with everything we had, you know, to make this Grateful Dead music, whatever the fuck it was.
Is it now more formula?
Yes, it's more
formula. You know what works, and you've eliminated.
We know a lot of what
and
works.
You don't reach out too much.
No, we don't experiment as much as we used to. Except we have a part of our show. We take like 20, 30 minutes. We call it space, where anything goes. Any tonality, any kind of instrument, any noise, any sound. Remember, the guitar. Jerry could hardly play guitar. Man, he was only playing guitar a couple of years. I mean, he was banjo player, and then he used to play the jug. He was a jug bander, you know. So I mean, they were young on their instruments, and I hadn't played, you know, rock and roll much. And Kreutzmann was the only one who really knew rock and roll, and Pigpen was the best musician in the band. He played the harmonica. He was the only real singer. Remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, so it's the whole. And then when Pig died.
Yeah.
His influence started leaving the band, we had to change. You know, when Pig wasn't singing the blues, the Grateful Dead went to where the Grateful Dead was more comfortable at, space. See, we're always trying to pull the Pig into space.
Sure.
Pig's in space.
He was
and Pig was always glued to the earth.
Yeah,
we were exploring galaxies, and the Pig was plowing the earth. Okay, rightfully so, and he did it really well.
He was kind of stoic. I mean, he would go along.
Yeah, and he would go, and he would sit and laugh at us or not understand it, look at us and blink his eyes on this crazy stuff that was going on behind him. But he loved the Grateful Dead. So in the passing of Pigpen, when it became less of Pigpen influence, the Grateful Dead would metamorphise. and it turned into this other creature that you see now.
Yeah.
And then Bob came out, and then all the things that you know.
What will it take now on stage? You're getting off all the time, but there are times obviously you soar.
Mm-hmm.
What will it take that somebody just is really playing incredibly or something like that?
Hey, Glenn.
What else won't you do here?
Right.
What will it? What does it? Did you ever analyze it? There's going to be a night. Maybe you're going to play 3 nights in New York, and there's going to be one night when it. What will it be? That somebody is playing? At the top of their
what
game?
happens is that you are a product of what you bring. The Grateful Dead is a product of what is brought to the stage. If everybody prepares themselves well, like you take good care of yourself physically, you don't come to the stage with a lot of problems, you are ready to play, and everybody is in that state, and they get to the stage, we can look forward to the Grateful Dead. Now, if somebody's done something they shouldn't before the show, or they're not into it and their energy level is not up, well, it's going to take a little longer perhaps to get to that place. So you can look forward to us doing that thing, being the Grateful Dead, when everybody is hungry and everybody puts themselves in the right place and is prepared to play Grateful Dead music, because it's not a casual thing. It's something that you have to work at now. Because remember, we were doing this every day in the old days.
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore. So the chances of our hitting those highs are lessened because we're not in shape. It's like an athlete not working out every day. We just don't work out every day.
Are there times when you decide you're going to get up for something that it really means a lot to you, and you're going to do that?
And those times never work like that.
No,
You
it's
can't.
happen.
The Grateful Dead can't whip the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
We can't say to the Grateful Dead, "You're going to do it today, Grateful Dead." This is a big chance for us. Every time we do that, we fall right on our faces. So we've learned over the years that the Grateful Dead doesn't respond to that kind of intimidation, if you would. You know what I mean? It responds to. You have to look into yourself and know that if I get up there and I'm prepared and I work hard to be a good version of the Grateful Dead, the chances of us doing that thing are heightened.
Sure.
And I think everybody in the Grateful Dead by now know this. I mean, imagine, we've been practicing for 20 fucking years. If you give us another few years, we'll really be good. I don't think this is the end, The Grateful Dead is...
Why? Why should it be? Why should it be?
Well, it's just longevity, just years, that's why.
But the only thing that can happen is for you to get tired of it, but you obviously haven't. You passed the tired point. Or, like a Rolling Stones thing, that something festers and all of a sudden there's a blow-up between 2 guys and that'll be the end of that.
No, this won't be like that. Grateful Dead won't end like that.
You say you won't end
Grateful
like
Dead will not, I can promise you the Grateful Dead will not end over something as petty as anything that is earthbound.
Yeah.
It won't. Nothing can destroy us like that. It has to be from another place, like someone being taken from us. This is rare, man. We got something that we know is very rare. And, Joe, it looks like, up there, it's like this, man. It's as strong as a giant animal, you couldn't think of killing a dinosaur would ever die, but actually they were just as fragile as eggs. It's the cloud came over and the dinosaurs died, right? That's the Grateful Dead. I mean, if we're taken, it's not going to be by a spear. It's not going to be by anything that a man throws at us or anybody, by a record company or by That's the one thing, we never would let the record company determine our fate. As soon as we did, we would be done. It would be Palookaville. We knew it. It would be great if we made millions of selling records. Oh, that might have been great. We might not have been here, as we spoke of before. And I think everybody knew that a lean, a hungry Grateful Dead was the way we would always want it. And believe it or not, even in this day when we go out and we make millions of dollars on tours, nobody is really fat in the Grateful Dead, Joe. I mean, our men get paid well. We have an enormous overhead. And we have a pension plan. We have a medical thing. We've set everybody, we've tried to make this into a long-term thing, profit sharing. All kinds of stuff goes down in the Grateful Dead that's ongoing and long-term. We have a foundation that we fund. We fund all kinds of old people's thing, crazy people's thing, young people, different priorities, Indian things. We pour millions of dollars out into other things, So we are a viable part of the community. And the Grateful Dead is the spirit. in which we all live, not only on stage as the Grateful Dead, but off stage. It's the only way to go. I mean, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Terrific.